Hello. Today we will be exploring exactly why the trait of tolerance so epitomizes the generation of millennials, and exactly how events in history have developed this trait.
Brian, think how nice it was to have a chance to reconfirm how much we love each other.
I think we all have to take a step forward, especially on an issue like this.
Other societal barriers are a bit harder to break down due to their deep roots in religion. Opposition to same-sex partnerships and gender changes have long been associated with Christian values held dear to many Americans of earlier generations. Recently, however, our society has witnessed a broad secularization, which has caused younger generations to develop a general attitude of indifference and sometimes support of the LGBT community and their rights. The first major manifestation of this mindset was represented by the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy implemented by Bill Clinton in 1994. The policy was geared towards homosexuals in the military, and it began to change the way Americans viewed sexual orientation. It was also one of the first steps that allowed people with different preferences to interact with one another without causing conflict. On June 26, 2015, same-sex marriage was legalized in the United States. This was the ultimate representation of a more tolerant society that not only welcomes but embraces its diversity. Though not all Americans have come to terms with the tolerance levels exhibited by acts like this, we can be sure that as a whole, we are moving in the right direction when it comes to social progress.
Alright, how do you feel about the legalization of same-sex marriage?
I think gay marriage is important for an equal society.
I mean, I'm an advocate for all rights to all people, so I feel pretty good about it.
In contemporary society, the political environment of the United States has changed greatly since the previous century. During previous decades, the threat of political ideologies like communism and socialism led to widespread fear and panic, as seen during the Red Scare of the 1950s following World War II. The 1980s and 1990s witnessed the easing of tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union, establishing the basis for the broad political tolerance that characterizes Generation Y today. The commitment of President Ronald Reagan and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev towards peaceful negotiation rather than forceful confrontation helped to outline the beginnings of the openness to other political viewpoints that characterizes the millennial generation. Reagan's re-election in 1984 showed closer relations with nations that were not necessarily democratic. He signed the Intermediate Range Nuclear Force Treaty in 1987, and his famous Berlin Wall speech in June of the same year called to tear down the barrier symbolizing the divide between democracy and communism.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
This set a trend of political tolerance in the current Generation Y, where diplomacy and negotiation is viewed as far more desirable than hostile confrontation.
Do you ever talk with people who believe different things politically than you do?
Many people are advocates for many different things, and I feel like they are, of course, entitled to their own opinions.
It's hard to deny that our modern-day society is characterized by multiculturalism and a growing desire for ethnic pluralism. Diversity is a term that is frequently in the spotlight, whether it be in the movie industry or in the college admissions process. So, just how did racial tolerance and equality among all become so ingrained into the culture of the millennial generation? The roots of this progressive development can be traced back to key events that occurred in the 80s and 90s, beginning with the affirmative action policies that were crucial towards shifting a majority of the public to the more racially tolerant mindset we see in millennials today. In cases like Fullalove versus Klutznick in 1980, some modest quotas for minority groups were deemed by the Supreme Court to be perfectly constitutional. When Bill Clinton took office in 1993, he also helped advance racial tolerance by appointing a total of 9 African American individuals to his cabinet.
If properly done, affirmative action can help us come together, go forward, and grow together.